Now, in the business world, now talking about the finance sector, we see the number showing up on the Google Chrome icon. The Great Seal of America appears with its hexagram on the US dollar, $1 bill, and other companies show the number on their logos and symbols as well. You can see US dollar, Great Seal, Google Chrome, you see 6 and then 6 and then 6 there. And then, yeah, Walt Disney sign, you see it right there highlighted. And then you have the AMA, the American Medical Association. This will come up later. We'll talk about this later, definitely. But yeah, just to show you, that's 6, and then you have 6, and then you have 6 again. Or if you want to go the other way, yeah, you can still find the 666 here, and it's even the snake around the stick. According to the testimony of Monroe, what was his name? Yeah, the Monroe guy, the guy who was a part of the demon cult, but then came out and started a prayer ministry. This is the sign of Nehushtan, supposed to be the snake that was put on the pole by Moses. That was made a god. You can find it in the Bible, Nehushtan. So yeah, carrying on. Now let me state clearly that just as it wasn't every single person in Israel that rebelled against God whenever the nation was in apostasy, so it is today that not everyone affiliated or working for these nations, industries, and faiths worship Satan outright. Most are ignorant, and given the opportunity to learn about these things, some turn away from being linked to such symbols where practical. Unfortunately, the people that create, distribute, and approve these symbols are the more vocal. With that said, let's look at how Satan placed his symbols in our church. Now, the communications department of the Seventh-day Adventist Church is run by Adventist Youth Ministries. It would have to be, since the youth are the tech-savvy and more creative group in general in the church. Unfortunately, most who are actively involved have been raised to follow orders from the Pathfinder program and the education we receive from the world. So when symbols like these, which I'll show you just down below, when the symbols like these show up that point to the church ministry having allegiance to the king of Ammon by closing or covering one eye, as seen with the artists above. So now we're coming to those artists again. Remember that old women's ministries logo before people before there was an outcry and they had to put all the eyes again? Notice that the older women have their right eye open, but it's the young girl that has her left eye closed, her left eye open. And that's allegiance to the king of Ammon. You can see that in 1 Samuel 11 verse 1 to 3, when the king of Ammon came to invade Israel, and that was when Saul proved his worth as king. And you can read that in 1 Samuel 11 verse 1 to 3. You can see what the king of Ammon said. So when the new logo that's going to be, the new symbol that's coming up for Adventist volunteer service, this is the symbol altogether, and these are the parts, which is the hand, volunteering, and then you have the purpose smile. So you see it's actually a person with the left eye there, but then the right eye is missing. When you see that kind of symbol, the covering of one eye, like I mentioned here, with these artists here, Bono, George Michael, I can't remember who this is, but Rihanna as well, covering her eye there. Yeah, these things. And you see that also coming up in the church here, in these symbols, or when the photo that is picked for presenting a successful baptism at a general conference session out of the many that are taken that don't show allegiance to Satan's army. Please take note of the place they are coming from. So this was from the GC session 2022 from the General Conference Bulletin. You can't get it from the website, but then if you have the actual magazine, or if you happen to download the magazines yourself, when the General Conference was going on, you'll find this on some page, I think on the second General Conference Bulletin for day 2. Now you see that there, they're doing the 666 sign. That's Dwayne McKay, president of Adventist World Radio, and 2 recently baptized members from the Philippines greet the delegates, saying that they're greeting people with okay, but no, that's 666. They could have taken any picture before that when they weren't doing this, but this is very deliberate and it is not godly at all. We have to know better. We do know better. But here we are throwing up these signs. But as I said, please take note of the place all these designs and everything are coming from. And the people who chose them were a part of communications or a part of the Adventist review, probably younger, and yeah, having the training from pathfinders and education just to follow orders and follow what the rest of the world does. They do this, and yeah. So, others know far more about the church symbol change than I do. I was a child when the change took place, and I've never taken the time to go in depth on the subject. The side that I have heard more extensively has been that of the communications department, having been a communications secretary for my local church for 2 years and being active most of that time on local church to conference level activities. Having taken this route to look honestly at our church, the nature of how instructions were given in the department when I was a part of it, and particularly the importance placed upon enforcing the change of the symbols, colors from green, white, and gold to monochrome, I knew something wasn't right. Try as I might, I couldn't ignore this persisting push, and I finally asked myself, why? Having noticed here in Malawi that the only other department in the church that has a dedicated communications wing is the AY department, finding the roots of Pathfinders in the BSA, and finding out the story of the founder of Scouting, which will be shared in another study, I had come to the realization of what transpired in the symbol change. After all, every spy must control or have a firm grasp of the flow of information. So with that, the message of the symbol comes out clearly. This is actually a screenshot taken from the recently concluded annual council. This was actually Ted Wilson's presentation on the Sabbath. And this is the banner that he put up. So even up to today, even the president himself is still using the symbol that was given to the church in the 90s. Before modern warfare, even in Bible times and in the Dark Ages, kings sent their armies to conquer territories or went with their armies to conquer them. When they were on the move or were besieging a city, the army dwelled in tents, but by their flags, one knew which king and hence the palace and kingdom they represented. In Daniel 11 verse 45, the king of the north at the time of the end, who was a threefold union of the beast, the false prophet, and the dragon from Revelation, with the beast being the main entity, sends his troops to set up camp to represent his kingdom in God's church. Remember, whenever Satan has his representatives in prominent places, signs and symbols are given. From the symbol, we read that the tents of Satan's palace are in the youth department of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. The symbol is in Pathfinder colors, and their number is 666, as seen in the separated symbol below. So you see green, gold, and white. And you see in the flag that was represented there on Ted Wilson's presentation, green, gold, and white. See that? Those are Pathfinder colors. So taking this flame here, and taking that flame there, and taking this flame here, just to have a clearer picture of what they look like, all separated on their own, we come here, showing that it's from the same symbol, nothing. I repeat, the majority of people are unaware of what they are doing because we have been taught from early on and throughout most of our lives in the church, in the home, and in school, just to follow orders of men. But friends, God tells us not to make flesh our arm, that if we sow to the flesh, then we will reap corruption. And furthermore, he that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. And with that, we come to our final parallel with Solomon. Number 4. Because of apostasy, 3 powers wage war against God's people. Since Solomon did not use his opportunity as king of Israel, even the throne of the Lord at that time, to point the world to God's plan of salvation throughout his reign, because he did not draw the world's attention to the temple as God's temple, but attributed everything about the temple to himself, and since he exalted pride and excess in all avenues of life, armed Israel to the teeth, and built idol temples on the mount opposing the Temple Mount, combining the holy and the profane, God had to let mercy pass off the scene and allow the consequences of Solomon's actions to come to bear upon Israel. Since the people had shown themselves to be desirous of the god of war to reign over them, God would let them have war from 3 sides at once. A. Hadad the Edomite, who had fled to Egypt before Solomon's reign. B. Rezon the Syrian. And C. Jeroboam, who also took refuge in Egypt. And Jeroboam was the greatest threat. For every nation and organization, the most extensive damage is done by those who are from within, because they know just where to hurt you. Being a former general in the army, Jeroboam became the enemy within. For any nation and organization, civil war is the most damaging. For if a kingdom be divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. We have not improved upon our great opportunities to witness to the world that God is love. I myself included. I know I haven't used my opportunities as much as I should or could have. If you haven't noticed, we keep referring to master guides and pathfinders to answer questions about the sanctuary. Or if we do refer to the sanctuary, we even mention, hey, yeah, this you see this diagram, yeah, this would be good for teaching our pathfinders. And by doing this, we make the sanctuary message a privileged doctrine, when it ought to be seen in some aspect throughout everything we teach, since it is the central pillar of our faith. Master Guide classes and all the different levels of Pathfinder clubs have a paywall that the majority of the church membership cannot afford, or would even consider investing in. Effectively, God's unique message to the world through us has been corrupted, just as Solomon did by portraying God's character as a God who takes pleasure in amusement, hierarchy, class, nationalism, fashion, privilege, and pride.